Relocation, Public Safety, and Judiciary is hereby convened on Monday, June 8, 2015 at 5 p.m. Just for the information of the community, the initial notification was disseminated on the 29th of May with regards to this particular public hearing to all the stakeholders. In conjunction with that, it was printed on the 29th also of May in one of our print media partners. And then subsequent to that, the second notice was disseminated on the 3rd of June, once again to all our senators, the media, and stakeholders, and then printed on Wednesday, June 3rd. So if there's any questions with regards to the compliance with the open government law, please refer your questions directly to members of my staff. The agenda for this evening's public hearing will be on Bill number 88-33, which is relative to the compensation of members of the Territorial Parole Board while serving on the Territorial Parole Board. Bill number 89-33, which is relative to the composition of the Guam Parole Board. And then our final discussion will be on Bill number 99-33, which is relative to establishing a hormone or anti-androgen pilot treatment program for persons convicted of sex crimes, sponsored by the good senator to my immediate left, Senator Brian McCready, and also co-sponsored by Senator Tony Adams. With that in mind, we will proceed initially with Bill number 88, and if I can invite the following individuals who have signed in. Mr. Joe San Augustine with the Department of Corrections, please if you can join us up at the table. Mr. Tom Van Hagen. Van Hagen, okay. Mr. Tom Van Hagen with the Guam Parole Board. Mr. Mayor Joseph Wesley, also with the Guam Parole Board, and then also Ms. Michelle Taitano with the Guam Parole Board. If I can invite all of you, please, to join us and to provide your testimony as we proceed with Bill number 88-33. I believe, as I read the title, that there's very little clarification that needs to be provided or any general statement because it's self-explanatory. Once again, for the members who are watching us today, it is relative to the compensation of members of the Territorial Parole Board while serving on the Territorial Parole Board. As it stands, there is no allowance or provision in law that would include the Territorial Parole Board in terms of the overall compensation for boards and commissions. So with that in mind, I'd like to invite the Director of Department of Corrections, Mr. Joe San Augustine, if you could please identify yourself for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Mr. Chair, good afternoon or good evening.
I'm sorry, Mr. San Augustine.
Yes,
I forgot to mention my good colleague, Senator Brian McCready. Thank you very much, Senator, for joining us this evening.
And
Please proceed.
Senator Brian McCready, good afternoon. If I may just read my testimony to you all, dated 8th of June 2015. Salute as an affidavit, Chairman Senator Frank B. Aguon and members of the Committee on Public Safety. I am Joe A. San Augustine, Director of the Department of Correction, and I am here to provide support for Bill 88-33, an act to repeal and reenact subsection 85.22 of Chapter 85, Title 9, Guam Code Annotated, relative to the compensation of members of the Territorial Board while serving on the Territorial Parole Board. Members of the Board shall receive compensation for their service while on the Board, pursuant to subsection 43104 of Article 1, Chapter 43, Title 5, Guam Code Annotated. Members shall be reimbursed for reasonable travel and out-of-pocket expenses incurred in the performance of their duties. I believe that the hours and the dedication that these members, to include the chair, put in to serve our community. For many of the folks that has been incarcerated in our facility, it's not a simple task. They're there, I'll tell you, sometimes more than 12 hours during one session, and they go through a lot, having to ask different questions to make a difficult decision as to why individuals should be eligible or be placed on parole. In saying that, just not my statement here that out-of-pocket expenses, but I see this type of service kind of like a volunteer, and this is a difficult type of service to provide as a volunteer. So I support in them being compensated for their service pursuant to the law. And I hope that the members here and the chair for the parole board are in the same. So that is all I have with regards to this bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. San Agustin, for appearing before the committee and providing testimony on this particular legislation. Gentlemen, I know I do have Mr. Van Hagen and then Mayor Wesley and then Ms. Taituno, but in whatever order you all want to proceed with.
Okay, all right.
That's why I was asking.
Thank you.
Ms. Taituno, please, if you can identify yourself for the record.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Hafide Gualsi Michelle Hope Taituno. I'm the chairperson of the Guam Parole Board. Thank you, Senator Aguon, for hearing us and working on this bill that we're looking at to review here. And thank you, Senator McCready, for being here. Thank you, Director, for recognizing that we do spend long hours and we do work hard work in order to make a difficult decision. But we enjoy what we do, and I guess that's why we do what we do. However, I just want to share with you all that, yes, I am in support of the compensation for the territorial board, and not just for the allowances and the gas. I would actually like to take that a couple notches up. And let you all know that we are currently, as of last summer, we were the only uncompensated board in the United States. So, and everyone else in the United States, whether they're part-time, full-time, they are compensated in their capacities. And we would like to, we'll start with this for now, sir, and then eventually maybe we're working on some other items too, as I shared earlier, and maybe we can compile all that and revisit this to another level. But I am in support of that, of Bill 88, if you would. And also, sir, I'm sorry, are we going to do all, or is it just we're doing one at a time?
We're just addressing Bill number 88 at the moment.
Okay, so I am in support of that, and if I may say, our vice chair, which is Ms. Connie Duenas, she is unavailable today, but sir, when we approached you, she was also in support of this. So on her behalf, I'm sure that if she was here, that she would also support this bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Taituno, and also thank you for, the director was very correct, very right when in fact he alluded to the volunteer service or the effort and the extended work that you provide in the Guam Parole Board. So thank you for your service to our community in that capacity. Mr. Van Hagen?
Thank you, Senators. Pastor Tom Van Hagen, Guam Parole Board member.
I apologize, Pastor.
No problem. It was about last July or August, the last time I was in this room, when you confirmed my appointment for the Parole Board. And I have, of course, been at each monthly meeting. I think I missed one when I was off island. But we've also, I've experienced that it is a great deal of work. We do a great deal of study of the files that are, of the cases that are going to come before us. So it takes several hours in preparation for a meeting that has a few times lasted 12 hours or so. Once we even missed lunch because of it, but it was not a problem. It's just, I guess I would tell you, I don't recall if I said this before, but I didn't volunteer to become part of this board for the money. It's to help people, to try to do justice, to try to make sure that criminals, dangerous folks are staying in prison, and those that deserve a second chance and want to make something of their life get that chance. So we work very hard to do that, and the compensation would just be a good gesture of support for the Parole Board. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pastor Van Hagen. And also, I'd like to extend the same comment to you in regards to thank you for serving in this particular capacity. It's never easy when you're making very difficult decisions that deal directly with the lives of our people, both inside and out here in the community. So thank you very much. Mayor Wesley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Senator McCready, for allowing us to be here this evening and for in regards to the bill that you introduced for the compensation. But most of all, like what my pastor here and director and chairwoman, is that we're here for voluntary services. That's the main thing that we do. I volunteer myself service for 12 years for Mayor San Rita. I continue volunteering myself for the people of Guam now as a member of the board. And I'm very honored that you introduced this bill, at least for any kind of compensation, because like what Master said, last year we went for the conference. And that conference was so unique, so honored, that we share our mission, what they had there and what we have here. And most of all, they do also, they get their own compensation. But other than that, I do support on this bill 88-33, and I hope that the members of the 33rd Guam legislature also approve on this and proceed for our needs for our voluntary services. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much again, Mayor Wesley, and thank you very much for your service on the parole board over the course of the past several years. Aside from that, this concludes the testimony. Unless there's anyone else in the audience who would like to provide testimony on bill number 88-33, the committee will continue to receive testimony, written testimony, for the next 10 days, and then we will close and conclude the committee report as it applies to bill number 88-33. We will now transition to bill number 89-33, which is relative to the composition of the Guam Parole Board, and I will yield to the members of the Parole Board. Incidentally, just for the information of the public, these two ideas and requests originated from members of the Parole Board based on the service that they've been providing our island community. So I'd like to yield to the members as well as the director in terms of being able to share their perspective as it applies to bill number 89-33. So, Mr. Director, if you'd like to commence.
Mr. Chair and Senator Brammer-Kitty, thanks again. Before I start, I just want to say, looking at the bill 89-33, in 2011, based on Public Law 3103, the parole board was not able to meet for a period of 9 months. 2012, looking at the data provided to me, the parole board were not able to meet for 3 months. That's from January, May, and November. In 2013, 6 months, January to May and September, a 6-month period, the board did not meet for 6 months total for 2013. In 2014, they did not meet for 3 months. And in 2015, because we just started, they did not meet for the month of May, as it were March. If I may, I just want to again read my testimony because that's what I do best, is reading.
Please proceed.
Saluted and offered day, Chairman Senator Frank D. Elgin, a member of the Committee of Public Safety. I'm Joe San Augustine, the Director of the Department of Correction. I'm here to provide support for Bill 8933, an act to amend subsection 85.14, Chapter 85, Title 9, Guam Code, annotated relative to the composition of the Guam Parole Board. Public Law 3103 increased the composition of the Guam Parole Board to 7 members, changing the requirements for 4 of the board positions. 2 of those members must have 10 years of law enforcement experience or a degree in criminal justice. 2 of those members must have 10-year experience as a social worker or a degree in psychology or sociology or a medical degree. As a result of these restrictive requirements, the board has encountered challenges reaching quorum during regularly scheduled monthly meetings. The lack of quorum has prevented inmates from the legitimate expectation of parole process, as well as addressing parole revocations. In reviewing the proposed amendment, it is the intent of the legislature of Guam to amend subsection 8510 of Chapter 85, Title 9, Guam Code, annotated to read, the Guam Parole Board, here I refer to as the board, consisting of 5 members, from 7 to 5, appointed by the Magalahi, the Governor of Guam, by and with the advice and consent of the legislature. The composition of the board members shall comprise of the following: minimum background and experience. At least 1 board member shall have at least 10 years in law enforcement. So we went from 2 to 1. At least 1 board member shall have at least a bachelorate degree or higher in social work, sociology, or psychology, or a medical degree. So we went from 2 of that to 1. Lastly, 3 board members shall have at least 10 years in human resource development or legal background, or any person of good moral character. In saying this, the intent, because I was part of this 3103, initially the intent is to really raise the bar and have higher standards, higher requirements. We want to have members on the board that can make best decisions based on, again, their education. By evidence of the document here provided, they were not able to meet quorum on many occasions, more so 9 times in 2011, and so on and so on. As difficult as it is to reach quorum, we must be mindful that higher standards and requirements provide for better results. Therefore, in saying this, it did not indicate that we took away the initiative or the capability of what this board could do, but what we did was just remove 2 positions, one from each of what I have indicated, and therefore the higher standards that we expect is still there. So with that said, I support this bill, and I hope the board members and the chair would do the same.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sanagsi, for your testimony this afternoon. Ms. Taitro?
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Senator McCready. So I am here to support Bill 89, and for the same, many of the same reasons that the director just shared. Again, a little history just for those present. When the initial bill was created to go to 7 members, we objected to the number 7. We didn't object to the credentialization of the folks. I think it's a great idea. However, I just made a note back then, and I'll make it again today, is that the folks that are in these industries are currently in our community doing the work. So, and they're full-time, and they're less likely to come on board, as they have not to date, to serve in a free capacity and to do a service as we are currently doing. So in that, not to take away from the credentializing of the folks to possibly come on board, but to also make it less cumbersome, because there are people out there who have experience, and we want to be able to open it up to them, because it's high risk. We've encountered harassments and threats and vandalism and all the things that don't normally go with normal board work. So there's a lot of risk involved in that. Our own physical safety and the safety of our family members need to be considered. So it's not easy. It's not an easy board to serve on. But I guess with some of our backgrounds, we're able to mitigate those risks in our lives. I also just want to share that all here sounds good. I'm in agreement to decrease to 5 and keeping the credentials. I do want to just make a note, sir, on page 2, actually 85.10 of the amendment on number 1A1. Actually, number 2. There lacks or professional experience in these areas of study. I would just like to say that in the 89, that if we can put that, insert that part, which is part of A1, into part A2 as an ending part. I thought it was there earlier, but I didn't see this until last week sometime in a review of it. So if we could insert that, that would be better, because then it opens again that area of folks who have been in the industry and have the professional experience in these areas. And otherwise, I just want to say thank you again for allowing the amendments of this bill, because we do want to be able to continue to meet. And in the past, we have met with 3 people, sir, and we were able to operate with 3 board members and make the decisions, even though they were hard, but we were able to do that. And just FYI, the state of Nebraska, a little bit more population than Guam, they only have 3 board members. So just as an FYI, although they're full-time workers in their capacities. But thank you again. I do support this bill.
Thank you very much, Ms. Aguon, for your testimony this evening. Pastor Van Hagen?
Thank you again, Senator Aguon, Senator McCready. I also support this bill. It's been frustrating. You may remember, I think I told you before that I felt a need to volunteer for this board because I felt bad for the prisoners who have a legal right to have a hearing for their parole. And when I read in the paper, in the PDN, that the board couldn't meet because of this, this, I believe, goes a long way to solve that problem. We're all well qualified according to the guidelines that you have here. As our chair said, that's not the issue. I didn't really realize how valuable my bachelor's degree in psychology would be all these many years later, but I have other experiences as well toward this effort, as you know. So we're just thanking you for doing this. This is solving a problem that not only that we have as board members serving on the board, Guam Parole Board, but for those prisoners. We do see some who want a second chance and who really do work at trying to get themselves right and back on track, a good track for their lives. So this is for them too. A little known statistic is that a large portion, a large majority of the people who go to prison get out. And if we don't treat them right when they're in, and if we don't give them the rights and responsibilities that they have, that doesn't necessarily create a very good attitude in their part. So I think this is going to help that. I'm very much in favor of this bill, and thank you for presenting it.
Thank you very much, Pastor Van Hagen. Appreciate your testimony this afternoon. Mayor Wesley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Senator McCready. I echo also with the director, with the professionalism of people chosen. Also, I agree with Pastor and the chairwoman. But we have to think also beyond the society, the people out there that we need to protect. With this board that we have here, is when we have less, we can do much. But when we have better tools that we're going to use, is where we get together and use that tools to benefit for our people of Guam. So again, Mr. Chair, I do support on this Bill 89-33, and I hope that the rest of the members also agree with us that we need to reduce down from 7 to 5 and 3 to quorum. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor Wesley. And let me just conclude. I know that Senator McCready is anxiously anticipating his legislation, but let me just conclude with this final closing statement. I know I started it off with the previous legislation, but with the nature of the responsibilities that the board has in making that decision, ultimately when someone who has lived a life of confinement, whether it be 1 year or 5 years or 10 years, and ultimately making that decision to allow that individual to integrate into the larger community. I think that that's always a challenge and a difficult decision for the board members, and in this case it reflects the 3 of you as well as Mayor Duenas. It's a difficult decision, but I know that all 3 of you, all 4 of you take it seriously. Okay, 5 members, I apologize. All 5 of you take it extremely seriously in terms of ensuring that this individual is ready and willing and able to be a productive citizen in our community. So for your service, I just want to thank you all very much for your continual service, and we look forward to the eventual consideration of these 2 pieces of legislation before the legislative body. So thank you for your testimony. And Mr. Director, Sus Masip. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, before I proceed to Bill number 99-33, I just would like to welcome and thank Vice Speaker, former Senator Ted Nelson, for joining us in the audience. Thank you very much, Senator. We will now proceed to Bill number 99-33, which is relative to establishing a hormone or anti-androgen pilot treatment program for persons convicted of sex crimes, sponsored by Senator Brad McCready. And before I allow him to provide his opening comments, I would like to invite Mr. Joseph Lastomosa. And if there's anyone else in the audience who would like to provide testimony, you're more than welcome to join us up front. Mr. Lastomosa, if you would like to join us up front. And then I'd like to invite Senator McCready to provide his opening comments with regards to his legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bill 99 is an act to add new Chapter 7 to Chapter 80 of Title 9, Guam Code Annotated, relative to establishing a hormone or anti-androgen pilot treatment program. Now, the most recent statistics, which dates back to 2013, ranks Guam third highest in the country. We did some research also a few years ago which ranked us number 1. This is the safest and most effective measure to reduce recidivism. That was wrote by an author and a researcher, Kathleen Amlin. She also reported that chemical castration decreases the occurrence of repeat offenses from 75% to 2%. So I think, Mr. Chairman, that Bill 99 speaks for itself. In totality, Guam does have a serious problem, and that we need to address this problem. And this is considered, in my view, the ultimate protection for victims and possible victims in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator McCready. And with that in mind, I'd like to go ahead and invite Mr. Lastomosa to please, if you can turn on your mic, identify yourself for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Yes, my name is Joseph Lastomosa, and actually I didn't realize that I signed in to make a testimony. But since I'm up here, I just wanted to more or less my feelings, because I myself have a sex offender registry, and that was in 1981, and I've been out since 1999. And with the traditional methods of rehabilitation and of course remorse, and well, with the help of God and being religious, the traditional method a lot of times is more focused, towards in the religion of a person. Now, with my feelings of not for this bill is more towards the inhumane act to actually administer these kind of chemicals into a person. So, but other than that, I have really not done much research to counter a lot of your statistics. It was just a whim, actually. To be honest with you, I didn't. Like I said, I didn't know I signed in for to be a witness. But
Mr. Lastomosa, thank you very much for being very courageous and sharing your perspective with us. And I'd like to yield to the sponsor of the legislation. Do you have any comments or questions?
thank you.
If not, that concludes our discussion on Bill number 99-33 COR. And for the information of the committee will continue to receive testimony on all 3 pieces of legislation that was entertained this evening for the next 10 days, and then we will conclude by closing the committee report and reporting the proposed legislation to the main body of the legislature. So with that in mind, I want to thank Senator McCready. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, and to everyone who provided testimony. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.